Hello, my name is Pastor Kathy Kollar. I'm the pastor of Pleasant Valley Lutheran Church near Malabar Farm State Park and St. Paul Lutheran Church in Lucas, Ohio. Greetings. We are reading through the Bible with commentary. We are in the book of 2nd Chronicles, and we are reading about a bunch of different kings. We read the book of Kings, 1st and 2nd Kings collectively, and now we're reading through Chronicles, which covers a lot of the same territory, but Chronicles has more of a focus on the southern kingdom, on Judah. They really kind of gloss over the northern kingdom in comparison. It's still plenty confusing because there's still kings that have the same name. There's Jehoram, who gets known as Joram. Well, there's two Jehorams and there's two Joashes. So in our previous session, we heard about Joash, King Joash, who was the son, his grandmother, Athaliah, basically arranged to have all of his siblings killed, but he got hidden away. And when he was about 8, he became king, and the queen mother Athaliah, who had been ruling Judah for a few years, got removed. So then Joash starts out as a good king, very much influenced by having grown up in the temple with Jehoiada, the priest Jehoiada, whose wife is the one who hid Joash. So, as we've said yesterday, sometimes the priests, if you're going to be the king, you need the priest's support, but the king also supports the priests. And so it's not one is over the other so much as they work together. And as the priests go, often the king goes, and as the king goes, it kind of depends. So Joash starts out very much under the influence of the priest Jehoiada, and that was good. Later, we will hear today, after Jehoiada dies, Joash does not do as well. So, chapter 24 of 2nd Chronicles. Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibiah of Beersheba. Joash did what was right in the sight of the Lord all the days of the priest Jehoiada. Jehoiada got 2 wives for him, and he became the father of sons and daughters. Verse 4. Some time afterward, Joash decided to restore the house of the Lord. He assembled the priests and the Levites and said to them, "Go out to the cities of Judah and gather money from all Israel to repair the house of your God, year by year, and see that you act quickly." But the Levites did not act quickly. So the king summoned Jehoiada, the chief, and said to him, "Why have you not required the Levites to bring in from Judah and Jerusalem the tax levied by Moses, the servant of the Lord, on the congregation of Israel for the tent of the covenant?" In this case, not a tent, it's a building, but the same idea that Moses had said there's a tax. If you are of Israel, you need to pay your temple tax. Verse 7, For the children of Athaliah, that wicked woman, had broken into the house of God, and had even used all the dedicated things of the house of the Lord for the Baals. Verse 8, So the king gave command, and they made a chest, and set it outside the gate of the house of the Lord. A proclamation was made throughout Judah and Jerusalem to bring in for the Lord the tax that Moses, the servant of God, had laid on Israel in the wilderness. All the leaders and all the people rejoiced and brought their tax and dropped it into the chest until it was full. Whenever the chest was brought to the king's officers by the Levites, when they saw that there was a large amount of money in it, the king's secretary and the officer of the chief priest would come and empty the chest and take it and return it to its place. So they did day after day and collected money in abundance. The king and Jehoiada gave it to those who had charge of the work of the house of the Lord, and they hired masons and carpenters to restore the house of the Lord, and also workers in iron and bronze to repair the house of the Lord. So those who were engaged in the work labored, and the repairing went forward at their hands, and they restored the house of God to its proper condition and strengthened it. When they had finished, they brought the rest of the money to the king and to Jehoiada, and with it were made utensils for the house of the Lord, utensils for the service, and for the burnt offerings, and ladles and vessels of gold and silver. They offered burnt offerings in the house of the Lord regularly all the days of Jehoiada. So it's been about 130 years since the temple was built by Solomon. and it's not in as good a shape as it was. And Joash says, let's collect the taxes that we're supposed to collect, and let's fix up the temple. So they do. And the extra money that's left over from repairing the house gets used to make utensils for the temple. Verse 15. But Jehoiada grew old and full of days and died. He was 130 years old at his death. He was very old, even today. And they buried him in the city of David among the kings, because he had done good in Israel and for God and his house. So Jehoiada was the one whose wife had stolen away Joash, who helped hide Joash until Joash became king, had been the advisor to Joash, and basically had done a very good job of running the temple, and he gets buried among the kings as a real honor. Verse 17. Now after the death of Jehoiada, the officials of Judah came and did obeisance to the king. Then the king listened to them. They abandoned the house of the Lord, the God of their ancestors, and served the sacred poles and the idols. Now those are the ones to Baal and Ashtarte and Asherah, that they would put a pole up to worship that, or at least to represent them. And wrath came upon Judah and Jerusalem for this guilt of theirs. Yet he sent prophets among them to bring them back to the Lord. They testified against them, but they would not listen. Verse 20. Then the Spirit of God took possession of Zechariah, son of the priest Jehoiada. He stood above the people and said to them, Thus says God, why do you transgress the commandments of the Lord, so that you cannot prosper? Because you have forsaken the Lord, he has also forsaken you. But they conspired against him, and by command of the king they stoned him to death in the court of the house of the Lord. King Joash did not remember the kindness that Jehoiada, Zechariah's father, had shown him, but killed his son. As he was dying, he said, May the Lord see and avenge. So Joash started out really well, but after Jehoiada's death, he is not doing well, and also even arranges for Jehoiada's son Zechariah to be killed. Verse 23. At the end of the year, the army of Aram came up against Joash. They came to Judah and Jerusalem and destroyed all the officials of the peoples from among them, and sent all the booty they took to the king of Damascus. Although the army of Aram had come with a few men, the Lord delivered into their hand a very great army, because they had abandoned the Lord, the God of their ancestors. Thus they executed judgment on Joash. Verse 25. When they had withdrawn, leaving him severely wounded, his servants conspired against him because of the blood of the son of the priest Jehoiada, and they killed him on his bed. So first Joash gets invaded by the Arameans, and then he gets killed by his servants while he's in his bed, because he had killed the son of the priest. So he died, and they buried him in the city of David, but they did not bury him in the tombs of the kings. So the priest, who was not a king, gets buried with the kings, and Joash, who was the king, did not. Those who conspired against him were Zabad, son of Shimeah, and the Ammonite, and Jehozabad, son of Shimrith, the Moabite. Accounts of his sons and of the many oracles against him, and the rebuilding of the house of God, are written in the commentary on the book of the Kings. His son Amaziah succeeded him. Chapter 25. So Joash started out well, but then once his priest Jehoiada passed away, he did not do well, and even arranged for Jehoiada's son to be killed. Chapter 25. His son now, Amaziah, was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jehoiada of Jerusalem. He did what was right in the sight of the Lord, yet not with a true heart. As soon as the royal power was firmly in his hand, he killed his servants who had murdered his father the king. But he did not put their children to death, according to what is written in the law, in the book of Moses, where the Lord commanded, the parents shall not be put to death for the children, or the children be put to death for the parents, but all shall be put to death for their own sins. So, son of Joash, Amaziah, first starts out by taking out the people who took out his father. Verse 5. Amaziah assembled the people of Judah and set set them by ancestral houses under the commandments of the thousands and of the hundreds for all Judah and Benjamin. He mustered those 20 years old and upward, and found that they were 300,000 picked troops fit for war, able to handle spear and shield. He also hired 100,000 mighty warriors from Israel for 100 talents of silver. But a man of God came to him and said, O king, do not let the army of Israel go with you, for the Lord is not with Israel. All these Ephraimites, rather, go by yourself and act. Be strong in battle, or God will fling you down before the enemy, for God has power to help or to overthrow. So Amaziah was creating an alliance with the north and hiring their troops. The man of God came and said, don't do it that way. Verse 9, Amaziah said to the man of God, but what shall we do about the 100 talents that I have given to the army of Israel? The man of God answered, the Lord is able to give you much more than this. Then Amaziah discharged the army that had come to him from Ephraim, letting them go back home again. But they became very angry with Judah and returned home in fierce anger. Verse 11, Amaziah took courage and led out his people. He went to the valley of Salt and struck down 10,000 men of Seir. The people of Judah captured another 10,000 alive, took them to the top of Selah, and threw them down on the top of Selah, so that all of them were dashed to pieces. But the men of the army whom Amaziah sent back, not letting them go with him into battle, fell on the cities of Judah from Samaria to Beth-horon. They killed 3,000 people in them and took much booty. So he hired an army. The man of God said, no, don't be hiring an army from Israel. He dismissed them to go home. On their way home, they sacked cities and took things. Verse 14, Now after Amaziah came from the slaughter of the Edomites, he brought the gods of the people of Seir, set them up as his gods, and worshipped them, making offerings to them. The Lord was angry with Amaziah, and sent him to a prophet, who said to him, Why have you resorted to a people's gods who could not deliver their own people from your hand? But as he was speaking, the king said to him, Have we made you a royal counselor? Stop. Why should you be put to death? So the prophet stopped, but said, I know that God has determined to destroy you, because you have done this and have not listened to my advice. So the Lord is angry with Amaziah because he was following other gods. Verse 17, Then King Amaziah of Judah took counsel and sent to King Joash of son of Jehoahaz, son of Jehu of Israel, saying, Come, let's look each other in the face. So King Amaziah, instead of hiring the other army, decides that he's going to take on the other army and throws down a challenge. Let us look each other in the face means let's have some war. Where was I? Oh my goodness. Look each other in the face. Verse 18. King Joash of Israel, and yes, we have more than one Joash. So Amaziah's father was Joash, and now the king over in Israel is Joash of Israel, sent the word to King Amaziah of Judah, a thorn bush on Lebanon, sent to a treater on Lebanon, saying, Give your daughter to my son for a wife. But a wild animal of Lebanon passed by and trampled down the thorn bush. You say, See, I have defeated Edom, and your heart has lifted you up in boastfulness. Now stay at home. Why should you provoke trouble so that you fall, you and Judah with you? Verse 20, But Amaziah would not listen. It was God's doing, in order to hand them over, because they had sought the gods of Edom. So King Joash of Israel went up, he and King Amaziah of Judah faced one another in battle at Beth-shemesh, which belongs to Judah. Judah was defeated by Israel. Everyone fled home. King Joash of Israel captured King Amaziah of Judah, son of Joash, son of Ahaziah, at Beth-shemesh. He brought him to Jerusalem and broke down the wall of Jerusalem from the Ephraim gate to the corner gate, a distance of 400 cubits. So a cubit's about 1.5 feet, so 400 cubits, 600 feet, 200 yards, 2 football fields long. He seized all the gold and silver and all the vessels that were to be found in the house of God, and Obed-Edom was with them. He seized also the treasures of the king's house and the hostages, and then he returned to Samaria. Verse 25, King Amaziah, son of Joash in Judah, lived 15 years after the death of King Joash, son of Jehoiada in Israel. Now the rest of the deeds of Amaziah, from the first to the last, are they not written in the book of kings of Judah and Israel? From the time that Amaziah turned away from the Lord, they made a conspiracy against Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. But they sent after him to Lachish and killed him there. They brought him back on the horses. He was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. So Amaziah ends up dead. He turned away from the Lord, and since he wasn't hiring the army from Israel, instead he goes to attack Israel, and it doesn't work, and he ends up very much dead before they ever get to the point of battle. So applications. We should love God with all our heart, soul, and mind and strength. We should also love other people, but the love for God should be higher and above it. Trying to think what else to say about Joash, who started out well, but then ended up not doing so well. And we can get like, oh, I believe in Jesus, and get a good start, but it is a slog. Some days we just have to keep on keeping on. That can be tiresome. It can be very hard to be stuck in the valley. But God is at work, and God does not stop being at work just because we're having a hard time. In fact, sometimes God does more in my life when I'm having a hard time than when everything is coming up roses and the grass is green and everything's fine. So, something to think about. And now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord look at you with favor and give you peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace. Like, subscribe, comment. We will see you next time. Thanks so much for being here.